It's the OG. Giglio's not here today. No big deal. I call my friends like Matt Norlander, CBS Sports, Eye on College Basketball, joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Matt, what's up, man?
It's it's busy as ever, but this is my last day at home before flying to Houston on Wednesday. Carousel starting to slow down. We're getting ready for an intriguing Final Four, and I'm ready for it, man.
About that Final Four.
Yeah.
Are you still kind of processing what the hell we just saw and what we're about to witness in this Final Four?
Yeah, on a certain level, yes. And it has been a thing, and I don't know if you plan on asking me about this. I'm ready to talk about it, but I'll tee you up just in case. And if not, we can move on.
This is why you're a professional.
I don't care if the Final Four isn't made for the best possible national audience and television rating. I love this sport. I love covering it. I will take any Final Four and any combination you give me because there are always interesting things about the teams that get there. I'm not ignoring the fact that last year's Final Four wasn't way more made for a mainstream audience than this one.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think it's really cool, really compelling. And the fact that any of these four teams can actually win the whole thing is super intriguing, and so I'm ready for it personally.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I think we can use this forum, and I don't know if you want to bring this up on your national platform in the future, but those people are dorks. I really don't know how else to put it. If you're worried about, I look at television ratings not as a singular thing. I look at television ratings holistically throughout the course of the season. And based on every metric, college basketball ratings have actually been pretty darn good this year.
Right.
I look at it from the perspective of the ACC, despite the fact that we don't have Roy Williams at North Carolina, we don't have Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, and Carolina was down, and Duke was kind of under the radar most of the season for obvious reasons that we don't need to rehash. Duke was part of some of the biggest broadcasts on ESPN this year, right? Including that Duke-Carolina game. So I look at it holistically. Engagement with college basketball, and I'm sure these numbers. I'm sure the Eye on College Basketball podcast numbers and YouTube numbers are pretty good this year.
Yes.
I know our engagement.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I can't give away too much, but our ratings here locally, pretty darn good. January, February, and March. So this idea that, well, the Final Four won't whatever, it's like, I don't know, man. It's like CBS cutting you a check. Like, I know they're cutting you a check, but they ain't cutting me a check. Same thing goes with, like, the scalpers. Shout out to Darren Ravel. Like, oh, wow, ticket sales are like, who cares about the scalpers? I don't care about the secondary market.
You're obsessed with this stuff. It doesn't have one impact on my enjoyment of watching and covering the stuff. I don't know.
Absolutely not. And the other thing, too, and the other reason why I kind of enjoy this Final Four, upsets are the feature, not a bug of an NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good that every so often we get these kind of weird Final Fours like we're going to get right now with, the South Florida Special, FAU, which I grew up literally across the street from back in the day. Miami, the school that my dad went to, suddenly he finds himself a basketball fan because it's not like football is doing anything. I think it's all great, and we're going to have something new in this Final Four. I love it, and I'm sure you love it too.
I do, and yes, it is a South Florida special. It's the first time any team from South Florida has played on the national semifinal stage, and that's D1 hoops. And yeah, you also do have a major brand like UConn. It wouldn't, it's not top 10, but UConn I think is easily top 15, top 20 for sure across college basketball. So you do have that. Dan Hurley is a familiar name. Jim Larinaga is also a familiar name. 16 years after he did it, or 17 years, after he did it with George Mason. Now he's back as well. FAU just represents the unique ability of what college football cannot provide you. And it doesn't need to be something that happens every year, but I will also remind folks that we are now 10 straight years that a 7-seed or worse has made the Final Four. Okay. This continues to happen. Now it's different this year because you've got 3 programs that have never been there. FAU didn't exist until 88. It wasn't D1 until the 90s. We know Miami didn't even have a program for 15 years. So you've never had this, but we have had a party crasher, so to speak. This has become part of it. If you want to say that, well, yeah, but last year had all these. I get it. You know what? It's great for this is the past 2 years of college basketball. You had the Blue Blood Final Four a year ago, and you had Kansas beating Carolina. You had the greatest matchup between Duke and Carolina ever, and then they send K home again. You had that, and now you have this. It is a drastic turnaround, but even still, you have, if not a blue blood, you have as close a new blood, blue blood, as close as you could possibly get because UConn has more titles than anyone since 99, and they're back on this stage.
About UConn, I'll ask you this question since Giglio is not here. And Matt Norlander, CBS Sports, hanging out with us here on the OG, Ion College Basketball Podcast. Would you rather, from 99 until now, would you rather have UConn's 25 years? Or would you rather be Duke or Carolina or Kansas or Kentucky? I mean, they could win 5 national championships in this span. It's been an adventure to get to these potential 5 national championships. But would you take what they're doing over what, say, Duke and Carolina have done?
I would take Carolina. So let's do each one. I would take Carolina's. Now, we're going since 99.
Since 99, not all time, just since 99.
I would take Carolina narrowly. Now, because Carolina is, first of all, you got Doherty in there. But then you get Roy, and you get 3 national titles. You get another title game, and you are top 10 good in most years. UConn has had some down years and existed in the American Athletic Conference, and it won title while it was there, but there was some irrelevance there.
Yes.
Duke won, so it won 1 in 01, and then it won again in 10 and 15, so Duke equals it with 3. I'd rather be Duke than UConn. Again, it's close, but I think it's just you'd rather be Duke than UConn in that stretch, even though you don't have as many national titles.
There's a sustainability to it.
You're getting the tournament every single year.
Yes.
Let's keep going. I would rather be UConn than Kentucky. Kentucky has 1 national title, and it had the Gillespie era. It did have some big runs, and it has been good. It had some huge recruiting wins. But on balance right now, I would take UConn's run since 99 over Kentucky. This conveniently cuts off at 99. Kentucky won the 98 title, was in the 97 championship game, and 96 title. If you start from 96, obviously it is Kentucky. But if we're going from 99, I would take UConn. And then the last one, I know you mentioned Kansas. I would take Kansas. You have won a conference championship almost every single year. You have won 2 national championships. There has been major March heartbreak, but your program is rated in the top 10 more frequently than any other program in the country. So give me Duke, Carolina, Kansas over UConn, but I think that is it. Overall, across a 24-year span here, I think UConn falls 4th overall in desirability.
Yeah, Giglio basically came at it from the perspective of a guy who went to NC State, just like I went to NC State. And 99% of college basketball programs would absolutely trade what UConn's been through, both the ups and the downs, post Jim Kelly and everything else, that time in the American Athletic Conference. Every single time they'll take it because – I mean, you could make the argument NC State sold everything for the 83, and they're still living off it today. So you'll deal with the ups and downs. There's only a handful that can deal with this. Matt Norlander joining us, CBS Sports. All right, I want to go back to a conversation that we had in the middle of the season where we had a – you know why I texted you. You know this. So when we I think this conversation took place in January or early February, and this was after you went on this tweet barrage about how the Mountain West has surpassed the ACC in KenPom.
No barrage. One tweet.
No, it was a total tweet thread. You had the little emoji. No, I'm kidding. My point is, and then I heard the Ion College basketball conversation. He was like, I'm just stating facts. I'm like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
But here we are with more facts. And we have
another team in the Final Four. That's right.
No, cool. But this is yet another year where the ACC has been discussed and like, shoot that or down, this and that. Yet another team in the Final Four. What is this now? 5 different ACC squads have made the Final Four. I think since 2016. You've got Syracuse. You've got Virginia, who's won it. You've got Duke, obviously. You got Carolina, now Miami.
Duke.
Certainly Duke is Duke. So I feel like we're once again having this conversation of what is the regular season worth and what is March worth? How much value do you put into the random chaos generator that is the NCAA tournament based on your ability to coach and your strength as a conference versus what takes place in the regular season? So in any way, shape, or form, now that we know what's gone on with the ACC, regardless of regular season, have you changed your opinion on this at all? Do you give the ACC any value for what they've done?
I do, but let me turn this back on. Did the ACC have a good NCAA tournament?
They had an okay NCAA
Duke
tournament.
Didn't make the second weekend. Virginia lost to Furman.
Yeah.
Credit to Pitt for getting a win in Dayton, and NC State was a one and done. Miami's there. I'm not even trying to be snarky. I'm asking, did the ACC have a good NCAA tournament?
I would say they had an okay NCAA tournament. It was just okay. But again, there's one team from the ACC in the Final Four. But it's Miami. It's not the team that you traditionally pick, which I'm guessing I'll flip it back on you. If Duke were back in the Final Four, would we be talking about it differently?
Probably a little bit, but this speaks to the overall issue. The ACC still ranks 7th at KenPom. It's behind the Mountain West. If the ACC was a better conference and had a better season, it wouldn't have to rely on the likes of 2 11 seeds and wouldn't have only had 5 teams get into the field. If you get 6 or 7 in and you have, instead of your best teams being seeded 4, 5, and 5, and you had a 2, a 3, a 5, a 6, an 8, a 10, and a 12, your chances of actually performing better would have been better. So it is a reflection on the ACC having a down season. But in March, when people care most, yes, you have Miami getting through, the number 1 team in the conference, oh, by the way. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think Miami can win the national championship. Larinaga has done what I think should get him eventually into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. You take
I agree with you.
And Miami to the Final Four. That is outrageous. So
completely agree with you. So I'm going to ask you this, though. Don't you think what's really going on here? To me, I think it's a larger issue. And I know I have to get you, and I got to go to the break too, and this might have to be its own separate conversation, but I wanted to plant this seed.
Okay.
It's incredibly difficult to watch and discuss college basketball on a national level. There's too many games. There's too many teams. Okay. So what ends up happening is you rely on what the numbers are spit out, and then you base it on, well, like I like Ohio State as a prime example of this. Ohio State was considered a good win for North Carolina for a good chunk of the season based on what the KenPom number was. But then when you actually looked at their record, they weren't even a 500 team, and they were getting blasted in their own conference. So we just look at a number without giving it much thought or context because, again, I'm not accusing anybody of being lazy. I'm just saying it's really hard to watch college basketball on a national level. It's an incredibly hard job for you, and you do a wonderful job of it, but I know you can't physically watch everybody play. So I think there's a reliance on the numbers, which then gets me to a larger point. Why should we be giving credit to conferences that know how to manipulate the schedules and the math?
Because at a certain point, the data is accurate, or at least as accurate as we've ever had. And there are multiple sources of that. And it's not just KenPom, even though that gets referenced the most. And it's not just the net, even though that gets referenced the most. Like, we've reached a point in college basketball, and I think this is a good thing, where you have a variety and a litany of metrics that evaluate team performance. And at a certain point, when you have enough data points, to your, like, I think that is reliable information to use and reference and not use as a crutch. Those are two different things. Watching the games matters, and I do put a premium on that, by the way. I just think that you cannot, the human eye cannot physically, to your point, actually watch all these games. You cannot do it. So you need, the responsible thing to do if you're covering this, or if you just want to be involved as a fan, is to rely on your Evan Miyakawas and your Bart Torviks and your KenPoms and your Massey ratings and the net and all of this stuff. Strength of record, I happen to think that is right. Now, the conferences gaming that is a half yes, half no, because the teams actually then have to go and perform. Remember, the schedule get done in advance. You actually schools get burned on this as well. There are schools that will schedule certain ways, and then those teams aren't as good, and then they wind up getting burned on it. So to a certain point, your question / commentary, I think, holds some water, but I will not shove off my belief that what you do on November 20th should matter just as much as what you do on March 2nd.
Okay.
Resumes have to matter. While, yes, you can be playing better on March 2nd than November 20th. I think it would be the worst thing for college basketball to actually dilute and reduce what those games mean from a resume perspective when we evaluate these teams.
I think we have to push the schedule back in terms of how we evaluate teams, because with transfers, rosters changing over completely, you don't really know what a team is capable. It used to be starting January, you'd start to get an idea of what your team is. Now I would say it's about middle of February, and we're penalizing teams for having lost or won too early. But that's a separate conversation for another day. You have a TV hit that you have to worry about, the people who actually pay your bills.
Before I do this TV hit, for your listeners, is there an album I see? Listen, every year, once like January hits, I catch up after the season. But is there an album that I need to listen to on my flight to Houston that has come out in the past 2 months that you are aware of?
Two albums I would recommend. There's the Yves Tumor, which the new Yves Tumor album, 14-year-old me in 1993, 1994 timeframe would have consumed this all the time. Like it would have been on repeat.
Already. Okay.
From the 90s. It's really experimental, some glam in there. I really like it. It's good rock record. And then on the R&B Sonics side, the new Kalela album is really good too. So
Kalela. Okay.
I would suggest those two, Matt. Okay.
All right, we are on it. I will not see you in Houston. Miami's not going to get you out to H-Town?
No, man. We're going to be at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park for opening day. That's what we're going to be doing this weekend. Minor league baseball, baby. Get with the Bulls. Got my satin jacket and everything. Matt Norlander, CBS Sports, Ion College Basketball. We appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you later, man.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you.